otherwise everything will break down. And he said this right after when he was interviewed in 2001 after he got his Nobel Prize. If I can ask...
so I have a very simple question
yes,
about science diplomacy. I'm Mr. Qasim from Pakistan. I want to know that what is the best way for young scientists to come into science diplomacy, and what is the role they can play there? Because this field is in fancy in my country, and I want my friends and my juniors to come into science diplomacy because I think it's very important for us to realize it now.
I think there's an opportunity there to set up a school of diplomacy. Maybe you should give it a go and give it some thought. It's not anything that I've really spent much time worrying about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we take this question and so before we go on to the other two? Would you like
to? Oh, you want to take this? Oh, gosh, from Pakistan. I think when people talk of, the scientists talk of science diplomacy, as much as I can gather, is really directed at governments and going to multilateral institutions or bilateral exchanges. So you should persuade your government that they should be more active in science and going to the UN. Start with the UN. Pakistan is there, and try to carry on, learn from each other, do exchanges. That's science diplomacy. And maybe OIC, do you have a scientific community there? Get some things going.
But could you be trained? I mean, should you, do diplomats receive any kind of formal training?
No, I was just dumped into the thing.
Yes, throw them in the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I went to the UN and I sort of talked a lot, and then I suddenly stopped and I said, oh my God, I'm giving away the state secrets. Then I clammed up. But as a diplomat, if you shut up and don't say a thing, nobody talks to you. They believe in information exchange. So you have to find the balance. But I really learned on the job. And if you're lucky, someone older, it takes you under the wing and mentors.
You said, don't do it that way. However you thought, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
In Britain, there is a not so bad system. They try to pair PhD students who are interested in politics, but from natural scientists, try to pair them with members of the parliament. And they spent about, I think, 3 to 6 months just giving feedback to politicians what science is and learn something. It can be a step in the right direction, but be aware that being a politician or diplomat, it's not an easy task for someone who is trained as a scientist. We trained in a different discipline. People who go politics, they study, say, for example, in Oxford, politics and economics, the popular subject for future politicians, and they are trained not in Schrödinger equation or DNA or something like that. They train how to put your arguments most eloquently. And if you are like myself, not so eloquent, and try to argue, even using scientific facts against someone who is with this political training, they eat you for breakfast. I had once an example with on TV with Michael Partila, remember, who even his voice is so deep and
convincing.
So convincing. You don't, whatever he speaks, it's like hypnotizing. Yeah. Even he doesn't know a clue about Brexit and science. Okay, I lost it completely just to the sound of his voice. So be aware about that. And this kind of training they get for years, and it's very hard to argue with these people who are professional politicians, as they should be.
Thank you. Maybe I'll take these two questions and then these two right after. Shall we do that? Please.
So thank you for elucidating your thoughts on these topics. My background is in computer science, and of course I'm going to bring up the AI issue again. I'm just going to use OpenAI's ChatGPT as an example here. So I think these generative AI have indeed the potential to be very pervasive in also forming public opinions. As I see it right now, there's a lot of censorship going on with these systems because they are trained on probably the most polluted data that we have, and that is the internet. Do you think that this censorship that will inevitably be happening should be taken up by policymakers, or is this in the hands of the developers of these systems?
Next question.
I think my question's for Sir Andre Geim. You mentioned that your personal opinion is that it's up to the scientist if he or she wants to engage with the public or not. And you gave this example that a scientist, because of their critical thinking ability, could have thought like 2,000 years ahead that slavery is probably a bad idea. But now, like looking back 2,000 years ago, like now that we know the ethical implications of that, it probably was a good idea for them to be vocal about it. So I guess my question is, like, as scientists, do we have more of a moral responsibility to be vocal about political and societal issues?
Thank you. So shall we? The first question on AI, who should sort of censor?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Actually, there's been some discussion about regulation of AI and protocols. And now there's a lot of stuff on digital agreements. And there's digital trade agreements, but just agreements on protocols on how you regulate the use of the technology. But that's usually internal in the society. I think at some stage it must be good at the UN or some multilateral forum to have that discussion. And it's not just authorities or industry. I think everybody should participate, because industry and the scientists and those who know the potential of what is before them, AI, would be able to explain. But I think this regulation, the protocols, have to be done by a group, everybody. So everyone is a stakeholder. And you then can discuss what you want to do with it. That's ideal, and people talk about it.
I should add that Professor Chan is a member of the Advisory Council on the Ethical Use.
Oh, I left it.
I just apologies. But she was a member, and I guess that's why you've been thinking about the ethical use of artificial intelligence. Yes, I wonder if any other, Sahant, did you want to add anything?
I don't have any, I'm not familiar with these things at all.
Let me add something to this, because I looked at this AI issue. I think it's all, at the moment, it's all hype. So if you ask people who do artificial intelligence, most of them, if not, agree that at the moment there is no artificial intelligence at all.